Hi everyone. So, are you feeling okay today after this not a lot of dumping? So, I'm quite cold in my mind, and I'm digging here to examine a few things in the structure of the yearly time frame. So, the reason why I was bullish for 2025, and I still am, is because the wealth element of the wood of the year is here. The wealth element of the wood is earth, and it is present within the snake. The snake has 30% earth. That was the main foundation for my bull forecast for 2025, that it will be closing higher than 2024. Now, October didn't perform according to my expectations at all. Not where my expectations came from. Let me just explain. Just a second. Okay, so all of my system is based on historical backtesting of the cycles. October 2025 is a fire dog. I checked the previous fire dogs. We have had 3 of them in the past, and all 3 of them have closed on green. So we had 100% historical probability of a green closure of the fire dog month. In addition to that, it was my job to check what is the performance of the male fire element. The male fire element has closed on a green 58% of the time. Not great, but given that we had the 100% historical probability of the whole combination, fire dog combination, that was 100% that I just showed you. This just added an additional confluence that the male fire, which is called Bing, is a bull element for Bitcoin. On 11 previous occasions it has closed on a green, on 8 previous occasions it has closed on a red. That gives it a 58% historical probability. That was my foundation for the October bull forecast. Now, everybody is wondering, is the top in? I just want to share some of my reflections about that. If the top is in, which means this top that was made on the 6th of October, it belongs to the previous month. It belongs to the month of the rooster. The dog begins from the 7th of October, and we can see it was disastrous performance by the fire dog this time around. So if this deviated from the historical performance so much, we cannot blame the fire dog clearly, because in the past it has closed on a green on every single occasion. So for that reason, there is no problem with the structure of the fire dog logically, right? We cannot conclude that there is any problem in the structure of the fire dog, because in the past it's closed on a green every single time. What could be the problem then is the combination of the year and the dog. Now these two are not enemies. Snake and dog are not enemies in any way. They're not friends, but they're not enemies. Therefore, there is no problem in the combination either. Not to mention that the wood of the year is actually the support element of the fire of the month. So as a combination, they're actually making a bull combination because of these elements' compatibility. Therefore, The only thing that we can blame on the poor performance of the fire dog this time around is the yearly time frame per se, some kind of an exhaustion of the yearly time frame. And then we need to reflect. If that is the case, if the yearly time frame is exhausted and it just can't give any more, because at the end of the day, this yearly time frame does have a weakness. In an ideal world, there needs to be some water here to provide nourishment. But then how many entities out of the 60 combinations, the 12 zodiac signs plus 5 elements, when you multiply 12 by 5, you get 60 combinations of a zodiac sign and an element. How many of these actually have both? They have their wealth element and they have their support element in the structure. Very few of them. So using that logic that there is a problem with the yearly time frame, that is just exhausted and it can't offer anything anymore, then we need to think, what about all of those people who have all of those combinations where they're lacking one of the elements that is good for them in the structure? Most combinations actually lack both their wealth element and their support element in their combination. Many of these many of these 60 combinations actually lack both the support element and the wealth element. At least this year we have the wealth element here. The wealth element, the direct wealth of the female wood is male earth, and it is exactly here in the structure. The conclusion from this is, if the ear is already exhausted and the top is in, we are not going to be getting a top for a long time to come. We're not going to be getting a top next year, because next year the animal will be the fire dog, the fire horse, I beg your pardon. Horse has only two elements. The horse has fire and it has earth in the structure. So fire, the wealth element of fire is metal. The horse doesn't have metal in the structure. That makes it weaker than this year. Therefore, it should be closing on a red in comparison to this year. Then we move to the next year, 2027. That will be a fire goat. Again, the goat does not have the wealth element of the fire. It does not have metal. However, the fire goat has wood, which will be providing support to the fire element, because wood is the support element of fire. Therefore, we conclude that 2027 will be closing on a green in comparison to 2026. And then we move to the expected bull year 2028, which will be an earth monkey. So the monkey is made of earth, metal, and water. So we have earth here on top. Imagine that. Sorry, I don't have that chart in front of me. Just imagine there is earth here on top, and then here we have water. That is the wealth element, right? The wealth element is present. What else is supporting? What is supporting earth? Earth is supported by fire. There will be no fire. There is no fire in the monkey. Right. So 2028 will be a weak year, like 2025. It will be a weak bull year, but it still will be bull year, because 2028 has the wealth element, very similar to 2025. It has the wealth element. Now, it's very difficult to conclude whether 2028 will be a stronger performer than 2025. The conclusion that it's going to be a bull year and it's going to be closing higher than the 2027 year of the fire goat, I'm already making that. The question here is that 2028, it will have a very similar structure to 2025. And 2028 will be struggling to be bullish, basically, the way this year struggled to be bullish. It will close higher than 2027, but it will not be some kind of a outstanding performance, although that will be an election year. And then moving on to the year of the rooster, 2029, which will be the expected bull year. That will be an earth rooster, and guess what? The earth rooster does not have the wealth element. Rooster is 100% metal, doesn't have anything else. So earth rooster will be missing both, will be missing the wealth element and will be missing the support element in the structure. So it will be a very weak year. I don't even know whether it will be a bull year. We may end up having 2028 in the structure is much stronger than 2029. Much stronger. Because it has the wealth element inside. Right. So what I'm saying here is, if this happens to be the top, the top on the 6th of October, if this happens to be the top, we're not gonna be getting a top for a long time to come, because the next bull year, 2029, is not a strong bull year in the structure. There may be other events, who knows? But in terms of yearly structure, which is my system, this is based on the yearly structure. That is how I decide the yearly time frame. My system is very different from what the other astrologers are doing. The other astrologers are checking various aspects in the year, and then from the ground up they make an assessment about the year. Actually, nobody makes any effort to actually forecast a yearly time frame and to kind of build our yearly time frame picture of the year. Only my system is doing that, because it's very useful to have an independent picture of the yearly time frame, regardless of what aspects are taking place, whatever else is taking place. You will need to have an independent understanding of the structure of the year. So far, my forecast has been reasonably correct. At the moment, I'm running with 3 months wrong. In October, 7 months correct. So that is 70% accuracy so far. Last year I had 78% accuracy. So my question then is, if this is the top, does that look like the top for years and years to come on yearly time frame? To me, this doesn't look like the top for years and years to come. I may be wrong in my conclusion, but it really doesn't, because I would imagine that the market makers, they want to jump in some kind of a very high blow off top, where they will be, only they will know when that will take place, so they can jump in their short positions for years and years to come, because 2029 will be a weak bull year based on the structure of the year. And therefore my conclusion is that this is not the top, that the top is yet to come. Right? This is the conclusion from my research and from what I know so far, subject to further research, subject to further reflections and all of those. Okay, moving on now to the November forecast. In complete soberness, zero hopefulness, I've already actually informed my family that it looks like we will be losing our money, and my family are very understanding. They very cool men, my dad and my husband, so I have not that pressure that I used to feel is gone now. This is now about cold research and cold understanding about what actually is going on. So October got invalidated, right? And if you recall, my forecast for November was a red November, because the way I was imagining it, if October closes on a green, it will be very difficult to get another month closing on a green. That's how I was imagining it. So to be safe, on the safe side, I put a red for November. But given now that October closed on a red, and not just a tiny bit of red, it just spectacularly dumped, I changed my forecast for November for a green closure on the monthly time frame, just from that reasoning alone. Reason number 2 for the green forecast for November is that, again, we're counting. The fire peak is November 2025. 3 previous fire peaks have taken place in Bitcoin's life. 1 green, 2 green, 3 green. 100% of the time the fire peak has closed on a green. In addition to that, I use metric number 3. And metric number 3 is the female version of the fire, which we will have in November, is called ding fire. How many of them across all months have closed on green, and how many of them have closed on red? And this is the result. 65% of the time the ding fire has closed on green. 11 green, 6 red, that gives it 65%. So this is the foundation of my bull forecast for November. I don't want to think about December right now. The system is subject to further review. At the moment, I just want to think about November, see what happens, and then I'll be reflecting further. Okay, so this is my forecast for November. This is not a hopeful, optimistic forecast. This is a forecast based from the data. The data can let me down, has let me down before on 3 previous occasions, and it is always at the risk of being wrong. That risk is always running. But in terms of research, in terms of methodical research, everything has been checked and everything is green for November on a monthly time frame. Okay, so you want to know pivots, but in this video I'm not going to burden myself with jumping straight into pivots, because this dump, again, this was not forecasted. The Gann dates that we were using as a pivot, I was using 29, and another colleague who is into Gann, he was using 30th. 30th of October was his date, 29th of October was my date. Let me just show you where that came from. So 29th of October date was 10 times, 10 cycles of 45 days from the 5th of August bottom. Why we're counting that? Because 5th of August was a very big bottom for the second half of 2024. Alright, moving on to November. By the way, not many other Gann dates materialized. In the beginning of October, we had 3 Gann dates. None of them materialized. This was supposed to be a low in the beginning of October. It turns out to be a high. So Gann dates are hit and miss like any other method. Suddenly, after October, Gann dates really struggled to materialize, right? We're coming to November, and what do we see? We see a very big dump on the 3rd of November. That these Gann dates were given to subscribers of the Bitcoin daily timeframes forecast. This is the Bitcoin daily timeframes forecast that all subscribers received. So this is it. It's a very big bottom. This bottom is even bigger in terms of a cycle, because this dumping is celebrating the bottom on the 21st of November 2022. That was the proper bottom. That was the bottom of the whole bull cycle that we're still on, hopefully, that we're currently on. The lowest low. From this low, Bitcoin started going up, and it has never touched this low since then. So this date is a lot bigger date than this bottom here, and this is exactly how they're playing out. Yes, this was a big bottom for the second half of the year, last year, but the 21st of November bottom was even bigger bottom. It was the biggest bottom. It doesn't get bigger than that. And today we had 22 cycles of 49 days from that. So following this logic, we can conclude that this is the bottom. I know you're sick of this. How many times now have we said this is the bottom, and it's not manifesting, and it keeps going lower and lower? But this is what the data is saying. I'm not here to give you hope, to make you feel better. I'm just presenting data. I'm not here to make myself better either. This is just hard data. It's cold data. Right, there is another Gann date here, which is not that important. It's from the second half of the year bottom on the 22nd of June. Right, let me just see actually, did we reach that bottom today or no? The bottom that we made on 22nd of June. No, we still haven't got to that bottom yet. This is the bottom here on 22nd of June. It was 99k or something. Right, so we're celebrating a Gann date from then. And again, 21st of November is coming up again, but a different cycle. So I count both of these, 45 and 49. Both of these are very important cycles in Gann. So 21st of November, so the 5th of November 2025 is making 24 cycles of 45 days from 21st of November 2022. Again, the most important date for a bottom in this cycle. This is it. We're celebrating a bottom of that on the 5th of November. So that's all I wanted to share in this video with you, that in my opinion this is the bottom, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There are other Gann dates ahead of us, but they're not that important as this very, very big bottom on the 21st of November, and this is the cycle converging here. Two cycles, the 45 days and the 49 days, are converging here on 2 days next to each other. These cycles are running independently, the 45 days and the 49 days. They're different. As soon as you start counting them, you will see very rarely they converge, and suddenly they happen to converge. So that is why my explanation why this bottom today is very deep. So we have another couple of days. We need to see what is going to happen on the 5th of November. But this is my statement now, very clear, coming from hard data, that this is the bottom in my expectation. From there on, if we continue dumping and flushing, that's it. My system cannot explain that. In terms of the price, in the previous videos I showed you where the price came from. Let me just get that. So the price came from here, fee on power sequence. The fee on power sequence, this is the price, 103,682. And I explained in the previous video and in this tweet, I explained why are we gravitating towards this price and we're not gravitating towards the higher price. Because we never established the halfway point as support. Before you can aspire to get to the higher price, the halfway point is 135,000. Before we can aspire to conquer a higher level of support, we need to have the halfway point between these levels as support. That needs to be established, and we never got to that We never established 135,000 as support. And I said in the previous video that that is the maximum aspiration. 135 is the maximum aspiration according to this sequence. If they want to pump higher because they want to make a very big blow off top, that is up to them. But in terms of the technicals of this sequence, the 135 is the highest aspiration we can have for this year. Okay, so that is some progress. We're making some progress. Not every month we can make a spectacular progress, unfortunately, to nail every pivot. You know, with all of my hard work, some months are difficult to nail. I held completely different bias for October, polarly different bias for October. Okay. Anything else that I want to highlight to you is that Mercury retrograde that is starting on the 9th, I beg your pardon, on the 9th of November. In there are 3 retrogrades in the year. The last retrograde in the year has tended to be bullish. And when you look at the backtesting results, we get a lot of greens. 60, 80, 160, all the way until 21st of November is the last green. However, this second column of backtesting results is when Mercury is in Scorpio. When Mercury is in Sagittarius and turns retrograde, these are the results. And then the first column is when Mercury is retrograde across all cycles, across all zodiac signs. That is completely bullish. That's even more bullish than Mercury in Scorpio, because it's more consistent. So the probabilities are lower, but they're more consistent. We get more of these above 50% all the way until the end. So that's your Mercury retrograde. I'm bullish for that. Not because I want or because I hope, because that's what the data is giving me. Aspects I'm not even going to discuss because a lot of aspects have been invalidated. So are you satisfied that I presented a good evidence to you for the bottom, those Gann dates that I showed you? Or do you want me to present some more evidence to you why I think that this is the bottom? There were several aspects that are indicating that this week is the bottom, and I'll show you aspects or cycles. They're the same thing, more or less. So let me just show you Mercury in Sagittarius. I already posted that on Twitter. Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury went into Sagittarius on 29th of October. The first week had 73% probability of closing on a red, and the first week closes on 5th of November. After that, higher probabilities of closing on green. This is a shocking, very high probability. And look at it, it materialized. So that's your Mercury in Sagittarius. Venus in zodiac signs. Very soon Venus is entering Scorpio. And again, what we have here is all greens for the weeks ahead. Of course, Venus in zodiac signs does not run with 100% accuracy. But it is forecasting for most weeks that it will be closing on a green, with except to 1 week where there is 50-50. Green Venus in Scorpio closure as a cycle, 71% historical probability of a green closure. Mercury in Sagittarius, 60% probability of a green closure. These two are singing the same song. Mars in zodiac sign, Mars in Sagittarius has closed on green or a red 50% of the time, cannot be used as a cycle. Some weeks have very high probabilities of closing on green, but a lot of weeks have high probabilities of closing on red. So this cycle is contradicting the other two. It is contradicting Venus and Mercury cycles. They were straightforward bullish for the days ahead and for the weeks ahead. And here particularly one, but that is in December, very high probability that the week ending on 9th of December will be closing on red. That is not of our concern yet. We're concerned at the moment about November. So I just want to highlight it to you that not every cycle is on board with my green forecast for the month ahead. Okay, do you want any more evidence that we are heading up from now, and this is the bottom currently that we're experiencing between now and the 5th? There are other cycles. There are other backtesting results. Let me just get to them. Mars trine Saturn. This aspect is a very big aspect. This cycle is very important when defining bottoms. Even the trine is found on the bottom. In previous events, this has always been a bottom found near the bottom, plus minus a few days. Mars is the planet that is telling us the bottoms, even though when it is on a positive aspect, like the trine. So this aspect, when you backtest it, that's what you get. The last time we had this aspect, it was on 5th of April 2025. We made the bottom 2 days later. This time clearly it's taking longer. Today is the 3rd, so that is a few more days later, 4 or 5 days later. The previous time in February it was straight down. After that it was not found at the bottom, but that is an exception. That was the only time when it was an exception. The time before, 30th of September, if you remember what happened, the bottom was on 10th of October. So we had 3 red, 4 green, 3 red, and that's your 10th of October bottom, and from there on parabolic moves. The previous occasion in 2023, it is shaded differently because we're very similar to 2025, that particular cycle, because they're on the same, very similar degrees to what we are now. It was a local bottom. The previous occasion, 2023 March, it was 9 days that led to a bottom, to a local bottom, and from there on 6 days that led to a local top. And the previous event was in 2022 in November, and it happened after the bottom, after the big bottom on 21st of November. So this aspect is found around bottoms, and it already took place. So that is an additional evidence to back my statement that in my opinion, based on all of that evidence, we're actually in bottom zone right now. So that's all I wanted to say to you. It's not really about encouraging you positively or anything like that. This is a disgusting performance. I'm not feeling positive at all, but we need to put feelings to one side and just look at the cold data. And then, if this data gets invalidated, it's not in my control. And there is nothing more that I can do. There is one cycle. Let me just highlight to you. There is one cycle that happened on 30th of October. So this is the only cycle that I have that has led to some very serious dumping after that. Last time that cycle happened, it led to 3 days up and it made an ATH. That was on 10th of March 2024, just 3 days before the ATH on the 13th of March. It was followed by 7 days down, 8 days up, and then it made a double top. Before that, it was very near the top in that aspect. It was followed by 1 day, it made the top, and then 14 days down, and then it headed up again. Now, unfortunately, we don't have this combination when they're on the same degrees, when Lilith is in Scorpio and when Chiron is in Aries, to see when they were on the same degrees what has happened. This is a very rare aspect. So I'm keeping an eye on this to see if we're gonna, because we had exactly 3 green candles, exactly like last time. Last time there were 3 green candles, this time there are 3 green candles. Let's see now how many red candles we're gonna get. I expect that this will be invalidated, but this is a rare aspect, so it needs to be taken seriously, because the more rare an aspect is, the more likely is that it's gonna be influencing the market seriously. And also last time it made an ATH, this time it's not making an ATH, so it's already invalidated in my opinion, but still I'm keeping an eye. If we end up having 7 red candles after these 3 green candles, we're proper fucked. But as I said, last time it was an ATH and it was a blow off top ATH. This time it's nothing like that, so I doubt that this aspect will continue. I doubt that these projections will continue to be accurate. Still keeping an eye on it. Okay everyone, this is it for today. That's all I wanted to tell you, that I expect that the current time between the 3rd and the 5th is the bottom, and we'll take it from there. Let's see if that works out according to this data that I have, and then if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna have to research some more and find another solution to the problem and find another explanation. But in my opinion, this is a pretty decent explanation about these Gann dates, because this is a very serious cycle here, celebrating the deepest bottom there is in this cycle, and that's why we're getting such deep lows. Bye for now.